is Thomas Zorbach, and I wish you a very warm welcome to the spring edition of X Night. This monthly event series is brought to you by VM People. We are a company that is specialized in new immersive forms of storytelling. I myself, I'm based in Berlin, as well as large parts of my team. It's always interesting to see who we've got here. So let me ask you where you are at right now. Please give me some emojis. If you are from the Americas, who is from the Americas? Please send me a heart emoji. Over here, we got Joanne. Who is from Europe? Send me a smiley, please. Some people are from Europe. Anybody from the Africas? From Africa, send me a heart emoji. No one. How about Asia? Heart emoji. From Australia. From outer space. Heart emoji. No, nobody. Yeah, interesting. So, dear audience, let me introduce you to a person before we start, without whom absolutely nothing would work out tonight. I'm talking of our stage manager, Liam. Liam, where are you? Please move a little bit closer. So how are you tonight? How is it going?
Hey, it's going good. I'm last minute packing for my holiday to Thailand. So running around,
Lucky
very
guy.
busy. Yeah.
But right now, where are you at tonight?
So England. I am just north of London. Is there anyone else from England here? Any
English men or women? Seems to be you're the only one.
No, just me.
Is it spring already in the northern part of London?
Well, yeah, we've got some great weather at the moment, which is funny. I happen to be traveling at a time when the weather here is lovely. So I imagine it'll be raining when I come back, which tends to be the case. But, yeah, I just want to go over some, I guess, some housekeeping rules before we start. I've muted everyone in the space at the moment. I will unmute you at the end so everyone can talk. And also there will be a Q&A afterwards. So you'll have a hand raise feature. So if you have any questions, save them till the end and you'll be able to ask them. And also if anyone's having any trouble with audio issues or trouble with seeing the presentation, you can re-enter the space in your menu, and in your settings under general, there's an option to re-enter. So that often fixes a lot of issues we've had. So if you're having any trouble with that, just feel free to re-enter and come back to the main stage. Have I covered everything?
I think so. Thanks very much.
Right.
And as for our talk tonight, Liam, I remember that you were the first to alert me of the phenomenon that our talk is about tonight. Almost exactly a year ago, you told me about a digital piece of art that was auctioned at Christie's. And the artwork was part of a new but booming category called NFT, an abbreviation for Non-Fungible Token. And it was created by a 41-year-old illustrator from Wisconsin who called himself Playful. Do you still remember what the prize was?
It was something ridiculous to my mind, which was it? Does anyone else know? We got to see any smiley faces if you can remember exactly what the price was. We've got a heart over there. Do you remember? Was it 69? I'm just sad face. We got this wrong. Was it 69 million?
Yes, exactly. I can tell you.
Yeah.
$69 million. And I guess my response to you that night was actually pretty close to the artist's reaction. He tweeted after the auction ended, "Holy fuck." I guess that sums it up. And since that day, NFTs have become a huge buzzword, and together with blockchain and the Metaverse, NFTs form a strange triangle that everyone seems to talk about, but hardly anyone knows what's it all about. Fortunately, there are a few people who know about it after all, and one of them is our speaker today. It is not his first time here on our stage. That's why it would be fair to call him a serial talker. He is a systems theorist, artist, and a creative coder exploring relationships between technology, society, and the arts in a playful manner. In his talk, he gives us a concise introduction into NFTs and the Metaverse and provides insights informed by first-hand experience from a digital arts perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, inhabitants of the Metaverse, please welcome Dr. Michael Straeubig.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Liam. And thanks to the team from VM People that invited me to this wonderful series of talks. Yeah, you could call it serial talkers. For the second time, I remember I've been here, I think, almost on the day a year ago to talk about theater and XR. At that time, I was deeply involved in theater projects that had to do with AI and VR, and in that field. And I didn't know that a moment later, just a few weeks probably after that, I fell into another rabbit hole, and this is the rabbit hole of NFTs. And so this should be the topic of the talk today. First of all, I want to give a very short, a few words about myself. My background is in computer science. Originally, I've been studying computer science in Germany and have kind of master's level equivalent of the title. From the beginning of my journey with computers, I was interested in this intersection of art, technology, games, theater, AI, VR, AR, XR. So everything that kind of combines different areas of from a cultural and a technological side. Another side that I've been involved with for about a year is NFTs that bring two new aspects to this sort of mix, in my opinion. And one is or maybe three new aspects. One is the fine art approach. Like I said, I had been more into performative art, and I would say the last 12 months I had kind of like a fine art, a very compressed study of fine art that I was not so much interested in before, but I've tried to catch up as good as I could. The second aspect is economy. As Thomas mentioned, the headlines about NFTs are often full of dollar signs and millions and billions and so on. Economy is an important part of the system and also of the traditional art system, as you know. But we don't. What I try to do in my talk today is to show you that there are other aspects as well, and it's not just about the money and about getting rich quick or losing money. But there are other aspects, for example, community, and this is something I will talk from my experience. So my role in the NFT space has been started beginning April 2021 as a collector, artist. I started to curate exhibition in VR. I'm now trying to make an exhibition here in Berlin in physical space, an NFT exhibition. I'm working with artists to help them understand the blockchain and help them to get on into the NFT world. And I just come back from Lisbon, where about 10 days ago there was a huge conference called Non-Fungible Lisbon with more than 2,500 attendees, people from all kinds of areas, investors, artists, curators, developers, and so on. And we came together and celebrated and had a lot of fun, and also had a lot of interesting talks and exchanged our experiences. So let's get to the question that is always kind of on everyone's mind when we talk about NFTs. Before I get to that, I just want to mention my approach to all these things. Basically, I think that theory and practice work together. So during my PhD, I came across this little making a Möbius strip, like a twisted band, where I wrote research informs and practice informs, and then it gets this endless strip that says research informs practice and practice informs research. So that's kind of like my my approach. That I want to try things out before I form judgments. I think that's quite important. So what you get from this talk is first-hand experience, which also obviously comes with a personal perspective. That means I will be talking from mainly from an art perspective. I will mention other aspects of NFTs as well. But my personal environment is quite artistic, quite artistic communities. And I also would claim that my statements are based on research, not just on reading somebody's tweets or opinions and amplifying them, but really looking at the sources and talking to people and being critical. So in the Q&A, we can deepen that conversation if anything is unclear during the talk. So now let's come to the question that people that haven't had any experience with NFTs always comes first, and this is of course, what is an NFT or what are NFTs? And the way I want to answer the question is through a couple of examples. And I'm going to show you a few. So here is an artwork by Iskra, and I'm always having trouble with the name because it's so hard to pronounce. Velichkova. Iskra Velichkova is a original Bulgarian artist based in Madrid, I think, currently. That's one of her NFTs. And I choose it at the beginning because the community or the my introduction to NFTs went via the digital art community, and generative art, as Iskra is doing. Generative art and computer art has been around for a long time, has been around since the 60s, 70s. But there was always, computer art was always kind of second tier to video art, for example, which is interesting because one could think that when the computers came up in the second half of the last century, that could be the predominant art form, but it wasn't. Video art was in the fine art world always had more status. Computer artists have had exhibitions and also has success, but most of them had really difficulties explaining what they do. Who does the art? Does the computer do the art? The artist? Generative art is made with algorithms, so the artist and the computer work together. Recently, there has been a kind of revival of that through artificial intelligence and machine learning, where AI works on the artwork together with the human artist. But there's always been kind of like a discussion around, is that real art or not? So Iskra is one of those wave of artists who deeply goes into generative art and explores that area very successfully. And so here's an example from one of the artworks. The second example comes from Kevin Arbusch. It is an artwork. Kevin Arbusch is an artist that is what we call an OG crypto artist. If you remember Thomas' remark that last spring, kind of the NFT came into the common, like the common experience. The people heard about it. Many people heard about it for the first time. There have been artists that use the blockchain for time. 2015, 2017, a couple of art. There was a new standard on the Ethereum blockchain for non-fungible tokens, and so there have been artists that use blockchain as an artistic material, and Kevin Arbusch is one of them. As I mentioned, through the surge of the NFTs, through the new interest, the bigger interest, artists like Kevin Arbusch now have a very successful time, and he's a very well-known and respected artist. Also one of the presenters at the NFT conference I just mentioned in Lisbon, gave insight into his thinking. And Kevin is one of those artists who do, I think, much seems like someone who doesn't care about success, but stays true to the art. And you can see his artwork is conceptual, and I like the piece very much. Here on the artworks, there's always mentioned the date, which is the date of the NFT. The artwork might be older, but the date when the NFT has been minted or created on the respective NFT marketplace, and also the number of editions. And this is something we can talk later about, like practical issues, like what is an edition size? What does it tell us? As if you collect NFTs, for example, you see a 10 edition piece is certainly different from a 1,000 edition piece, and so on. And then there's always mark to the source of the NFT, which I will come later to, where you find those NFTs if you want to take a look. Different kind of art. This is pixel art. People who are familiar with like game art and this kind of aesthetic. It's an artist from Indonesia with the artist name Mumu Stan. This is actually hand-drawn pixel art, so she does not use algorithms to do the animations, but she draws pixel by pixel every frame. And according to her, it's kind of meditative to do so. We tried to convince her to use animation tools, and but I think it has something wonderful, interesting. If somebody works in a very manual way in a digital medium. Mumu is also a community builder, and she has a very strong role within the artistic NFT community, or one artistic NFT community that I will talk about later. Another community builder is Berlin-based Diane Drubai. She's a French artist, also a very strong voice in the world of art NFTs. One of the founders of Alterhen, an alternative or an artistic NFT collection and marketplace. And she's also a wonderful artist. I should mention that the pieces that I'm showing are mainly from my collection, with exception of one or two. I think the Iskra the first one that I showed you, I cannot quite afford it. Yeah, most of the pieces I'm showing you, I collected myself. So this is a different genre, just to show you the bandwidth of what NFTs can be. This is from photography. There's a lot of photographers, artistic photographers, and photographers that work with digital tools. Elisabeth is one of them. This is an 11 edition piece from 2022. It's a wonderful piece, I think. I love her aesthetics. She's a very productive artist, and she's one of those artists that I think really shine in the NFT space. Her pieces are affordable for new collectors. That means you don't have to pay like thousands of dollars, but a few dollars, and you can build up a collection of her art. And yeah, for me, it's always a delight to look at her work. This is coming from another example from illustration. This is Berlin-based artist Marie Sun, who has a career, like a long-standing career as a manga artist, and she has since 10 years or so, she does her own projects that are meant to empower women and men and everyone, all species, to explore their sexuality and their true self, and have a strong and powerful voice. This is a 1/1. That is an artwork that you can only collect once. It's a special edition of another piece, which is more affordable and comes in a 500 edition. So this is kind of like, as an example, to see this kind of art, illustration art. Another artist, Lulu XXX, she's an artist based in Paris as well. I wanted to show this. Lulu is a super successful artist. She makes a lot of, produce a lot of original work with her own aesthetics. And here, this is a work that is done with machine learning. This is one of the aesthetics that I mentioned that have become popular in the last couple of years and are also used in NFTs. Thais Silver is an artist from Brazil. Thais makes social, political, and cultural commentary in form of collage, and I love Thais' work. This is from her collection called Black Culture. The piece is called Afrofuturism, and you see that you see the technique, you see the colors. Thais is also super interesting artist. She has been also in the art community very early on, and is building up a work, which is very interesting if you collect art, to find artists like that. And I think you would never be disappointed, even if you're not interested in collecting art as an investment, but collecting art for art's sake, to have wonderful pieces in your collection. This is one of the artists that I can warmly recommend, and this is also a wonderful piece. This is an example that I selected to show a little bit more the possibilities. I cannot play it. We tried technically, because I cannot use audio, unfortunately, here, or start the YouTube video. This is a collection of so-called PFPs. PFPs stands for profile pictures, and that means that there is a very high number of individual NFTs, like 5,000 in this case, 5,000 times 1, so 5,000 individual NFTs. And this is a music NFT. So the other ones that I showed were mainly visual. And this is a music NFT. It's Mike Shinoda, the artist who is an ex-member of the band Linkin Park, calls it a generative mixtape. So he uses combinatorics to combine different tracks and stems into a musical experience. You can collect a few of them and play them one after the other, and have some variation. And this is another area which is completely blowing off at the moment. In Lisbon or in Berlin, when you talk to musicians, they normally talk about NFTs right now, and they normally try to figure out what to do, because, as you know, for many musicians, the current economical model does not work. If you stream 100,000 of your like, if you have 100,000 streams of your music and then get a few cents, that's not viable. And so music NFTs are a big part, a big topic, and very interesting. So this as an example of that space. So let me just pick up. I just had to look at my timer, and of course I lost a little bit my flow. Yeah, it's an important slide. So I talked about my personal story. In March 2021, before March 2021, a few of my artist friends started discussing NFTs and blockchain. There was very critical discussion about energy use of certain blockchains, and as a result, artists like Memo Akten, Jean Lemessier, Carl McDonald's, they discovered that there are possibilities to avoid huge energy use and also huge blockchain fees by going to a proof of stake blockchain. And at the same time, completely independent of it, a Brazilian artist, hacker, created a platform called Nunc. Nunc is started as an NFT platform in March 2021, and immediately a huge community of artists started to mint on Nunc. Minting means generating NFTs. The platform went completely like upwards, and I came in April 2021. Before that, I was a very NFT skeptic person. I had muted the term NFT on Twitter because suddenly all my Twitter was full of NFT. I muted it for a month. Then I looked at it again. Then there was this Nunc, and everybody was like talking about it. I was curious, and I started minting my first NFT in April 2021. Now it's April 2022. The world has changed a little bit. From one platform have sprung out quite a few. You see a few examples here. Versum, Object.com, FXHash, HickAF, 8BDO are all platforms that originated from Nunc, but now are independent, different projects. Teia is a community-driven effort that tries to keep on the spirit of the original Nunc. So it's very artistic, it's very democratic, it's a worldwide community. Everyone is invited. There's no doorkeepers. And Teia community is really a phenomenon. I have never experienced something like that. We have meetings now in Berlin in September. So people actually meet each other that we only know, from Discord and stuff like that. And also in Lisbon, the community came together this kind of community from that sprang up in March, and basically shows my journey. Here are a few examples on the slide about the mentioned profile picture projects. So Tezos was one of the earliest on Hicket Nunc, Neons, and now Dogami. I will mention Dogami a little bit later. So that's basically history in a slide. I've written up the history of Hicket Nunc in more detail, and I will share links for this presentation with you after the talk, so you can read that in much more detail later. So what is an NFT? We saw examples. What does an NFT? An NFT is essentially, it provides a certificate. It provides you with a certificate of ownership that is, oh, second, I'm lost. Yeah, a certificate of ownership at the moment, mostly of a digital asset. So the NFT is a piece of code on the blockchain. It has a link to an asset. If it's done correctly, the asset is also on a distributed file system. It's not on just a link on the web server of NFT platform, because if that would be the case, then if the NFT platform goes down, then your link would be empty. But if it's on a distributed file system such as IPFS, your NFT will live on even if somebody kills a server or shuts the server down. And that's one of the aspects that people in this space are exploring, that kind of like censorship resistant and robust decentralized version of ownership and art. Okay. Technically, it's a standard. So you can read up on the FA2 standard. That's the NFT standard on Tezos. So if somebody asks you what is an NFT, you can point to that and say, read that, then you know it. So it's very technical. There's other standards such on other blockchains, equivalents of that. So it's technically explained what exactly an NFT is, and you can read it in a lot of detail. So some questions that we would be able to discuss, or we can discuss later, is are distinctions, such as some NFTs are certainly art, some NFTs are certainly not art, but collectibles, more like, you know, the football album, or the older ones among us will remember that they collected maybe stamps, or you collected coins or other things. So there is a discussion, or there's this whole bandwidth between art NFTs and collectible NFTs. Another interesting discussion is about the like how do you structure an NFT, like an NN that is stands for the edition size. So for example, I showed you a 1/1 NFT that is only unique versus 100 edition size. Or you can structure them as a PFP, as a profile picture, where you make 10,000 NFTs with the help of an algorithm that builds them together from individual pieces, and then you structure them as that certain pieces have more rarity and other pieces are more common. It's a little bit like collectible card system. So you build a system like that, and then you hope that the community will want to collect it and trade it and so on. And also we can talk about NFT platforms on Tezos. That's the one that I'm mentioning here in this talk, versus other blockchains. But for now, I would come to the second buzzword in the talk to show a little bit the direction where everything is supposed to be going, or could be going. And this is the question of metaverses. discussion is there one metaverse or are there many metaverses? That could be, yeah, I'll leave that open to discussion. But the origin of the term metaverse, as you might have heard, is about coming from a novel by Neal Stephenson called Snowcrash. And here is a quote: "You can look like a gorilla or a dragon or a giant talking penis in the metaverse. Spend 5 minutes walking down the street and you will see all of these." And this is actually true for the current metaverses and also the NFTs. You will see gorillas, dragons, art, and also the other stuff a lot, which is not unusual if you come from the art world. Famous critic once said, you have to look at a lot of shit in order to find good art, and this is true. So Neal Stephenson trope is often talked about that it's a dystopian idea, but if you say that, then you probably haven't read the novel or not close enough, because in Neal Stephenson's world, so the whole world is dystopic, and the metaverse is simply a place for hackers to hang out, a virtual place. So not the metaverse is dystopic, but the world is dystopic. The world is a horrible place, and the metaverse is a part of it. And it can be a part for the good, and it can be a part for the bad. And this is exactly what I think about how we should think about metaverses. And again, I will use the same methodology as I did just before, and I will start with examples, or I will show you some examples. And maybe a little bit surprisingly, my first example starts with a fish tank. So in addition to the NFTs that I showed you before, which are singular images or pictures or music pieces, Bitfishy Shop is an NFT creation, I would say, fish tank little metaverse. You collect the fishes or you get them airdropped, which means you get them as a present. You have them in your collection, and then you go to their website and connect your wallet, and then you have a little fish tank. And in the fish tank, you can click on the fishes and they swim around, and it's just a little bit fun. So this is a very, very like a very, very small, tiny little bit in the direction of what can I do beyond a single NFT, and how can I connect these things into an interactive experience. And I would say this is like the proto-metaverse of where it's all starting from the bottom up. A bit more evolved. These are NFTs from Alex Grasser, who is a professor of architecture, and he builds this little metaverses in NFTs. So this is an NFT multiplayer world where when multiple people are in the NFT at the same time, they can build structures and all this kind of stuff. When you own other NFTs, you can build more, or you can switch colors, or you can have other stuff. And Alex is one of those architects that I would call metaverse architects, that start building out metaverses from these from single NFTs and expand into the bigger world of online multiplayer experiences. The next example I want to mention is Versum, which is an NFT platform and art market. Versum, as many projects, are also aiming to become a metaverse. They are building it at the moment. I cannot show anything concrete yet, but they start as an art market, and they're very well received in the community, and build metaverse features out of that idea. So it comes from an art background, building up into interactive, into 3D, into VR, into AR, and this is one of the teams to watch in that space. I would argue a bit more that looks familiar to people using Mozilla Hubs and other things that are online VR experiences. TZLand, as many of the projects that I'm showing today, this is done by a single developer, and I will come back to that question. But for me, metaverses are built from the bottom up, from the ground up. People who listen to big company bosses talking about metaverses, or big existing platforms talking about metaverses, that is not, these are not the builders of metaverses. I mean, these are like the old industries that do this new kind of form. But in my opinion, and we can debate that later, metaverses are built from this kind of stuff, from the bottom up, from the fish tank, from the architects, from the one person that builds this thing. That's a little kind of land. You can own land, but it has a different economy. It doesn't try to extract money as much as others, and it's a very interesting approaches. I also want to mention this project, which is a bit more, business-like, or a bit more. There's a team behind it. There are investors behind it, and it's super successful. This is a metaverse that it's called the Petaverse, Dogami, a huge project that are building, but they also build up from NFTs. From you collect them, and the features of the metaverse are described in a roadmap. That's the usual thing, that teams are describing what they're going to do in the future. And yeah, let's hope they all do that. And this is, like I said, a more commercial venture than the others that I showed so far. But this is, of course, also part of the whole NFT economy, and more so on other platforms, for example. So last example, Michael Beats. He's an Australian filmmaker, VR, an XR artist. He builds this incredible events, online events in online VR space, online game engine spaces, where there is art exhibitions, there is minting, NFTs are created. You can collect them from these worlds. And Michael has done incredible stuff with a small team. This is the 4th iteration of Here and Now. And it's always, the community is always waiting for the 5th iteration. And he's also one of those people, I think, who will be the metaverse builders, or are the metaverse builders, and will be huge in the future. Okay, so I showed a couple of examples as an introduction, and now I want to come to a second part, a short commentary on to make sense. Lots of you will have opinions and have your own experiences. So from my perspective, a little SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that go through quickly as a discussion starter for later maybe. So strengths, for me, clearly, it is the community. As I mentioned, Teia community that I'm part of. Very happy to be part of that community. The other picture I took in Lisbon, there were 2,500 people in a very nice organized conference. And the example on the bottom, I don't know if it's possible to read, but it's like where actually someone commented on one of my NFTs, which normally doesn't happen so much because it's not my main focus on my own art, but this sort of personal relationships between artists and collectors that are also in the traditional art world happen here. And I met so many wonderful people in different roles and had wonderful conversations so far. Also, the event space is going into a lot into music events with NFTs. Just give me a sec. So physical events in combination with minting, with experiences. This is something which is super successful and will go directly. We are going directly into the future with that. Currently in Berlin, there is a huge event in the Kraftwerk, a former techno place or music place where Bright Moments, a collective from Los Angeles, is having a huge show, NFT event, music, Philip Glass art. So there's a lot of stuff going on like that. Weaknesses, of course, many of you will know about controversies around NFTs. This is a little satirical take on them because a lot of the very loud opinion or the loudest opinions are, in my experience, also the most opinions, but I would say every critique about blockchain and NFTs has a true core. There's that's not to debate. There's all that stuff. There are scams. There are energy issues on certain blockchains. There are questions about ownership and art. There are questions if we are just replicating the old system in new technology, and so on and so on and so on. What I do not question is that people actually, artists actually, for artists, it's a huge opportunity, but the critique is has to be discussed and has to be discussed on a hopefully civilized manner. And one of those critiques, which is about energy consumption, you will see in my materials like resources that are also academic resources, papers and so on, but also artistic research into the topic. And I just want to say that all the discussions should take into consideration that blockchain and NFT is not one technology, but a couple of technologies which have a very different mechanisms and also very different energy consumption. So if you talk about an airplane and I talk about a bicycle, we are both talking about vehicles, but you cannot say vehicles are bad for the environment because I'm on a bicycle at the moment. So this is to that topic. Threats coming from these from issues. I think a few things to mention is expectations in both ways, overblown expectations, greed, people who want to get rich quickly, people who want to get rich without giving something back, and the so-called maximalists on the pro side and on the against side. So the people that come with strong emotions and strong opinions and the underlying economies, there is always an underlying economy, and this is they are very volatile. So that is also a risk. So you are risking something when you go into that place. Certainly, you're risking your time, people risking their money. And in the political sense, there is both extreme sides, over and under regulation. I would say would be both a problem, and we need to find, as we say in Germany, vernünftig, a reasonable regulation for all this. Opportunities, yeah, I would say here are a few. Again, coming from the art world, Art Basel, Miami Beach, biggest art event in the world. All the other, every gallerist I'm talking to, every art event, fine art has embraced NFTs. There's no discussion about it. Other industries, gaming and so on, is lagging behind or will come later or will come in a different way. But there are huge opportunities. And for an artist who is minting an NFT, benefit is not only that your art can be shared and you can build relationships, but it's also every resale of the NFT will bring you fresh revenue, because that is one of the functions of an NFT, that the original artist can set a percentage between 10 and 25% on the Tezos blockchains, on the Tezos marketplaces, and you will get every resale in, as long as the blockchain exists, will give you these 10 to 25% of the price that is at the point of resale. So you can sell your NFT for one Tez, that's $3, and then your collector might resell it for $5, then you get 1.25, and then the next collector might sell it for 500, and then you get a lot more. So for the artist, this is the opportunity. Economically, I have to, I think, come to the end. But I promised on the first slide that I will also talk about Web3. So there's one more slide about Web3 as a bonus, free bonus. And because it's a third buzzword that is thrown around. In my opinion, when we talk about Web3, we talk about the web. So the web that we already have. The web is already Web3 or will become Web3. The web always will be based on open standards. These standards are like HTTP or HTML, but now new standards coming in, WebXR, FA2 I mentioned, like NFT standards, or decentralized systems like Matrix, and it will become more decentralized. And this is one of the buzzword number 4, I think. Decentralization, I say more decentralized. I don't think it's feasible to talk about full decentralization. It means that in the future, the central platforms will have less power and the individual and small projects will have more power. That's the hope, at least. Technically, this is reached through decentralized technology like IPFS, blockchains, and autonomous nodes, as I call them, like projects that run their own servers. You could, if you are thinking about it, we're running our own servers, running our own nodes, instead of relying on a platform like Instagram suddenly killing your account, as it happened to one of the artists that I mentioned before, without any explanation. In a decentralized scenario, there would have been at least a discussion about that. And I believe that should be the case. So at the end, yeah, I want to say, for somebody like me, like I told about my personal story, all of these things here tickle my brain in different areas. And that's why NFTs and Metaverse and Web3 tickle my whole brain. I could have a bit less of negativity from some people in this space. I think I lost a couple of friends or people that I knew before. But I won different, like other new friends, a huge welcoming community, a very helpful community, people helping each other, people supporting each other, and this is what, yeah, I really, really want to see and go forward. And now, at the end, this is the this is my motto in a sense. You cannot understand a system until you try to change it. So if you see something in that space that you don't like, you can become part of it, as Hickett Nunc was, as many artists that I know are, and you can try to change it and make it a better place. Thank you very much. Was my talk. You can get the materials for this talk. You can get the materials for this talk from my Twitter or from my website. And now I think we will have a Q&A. You can raise your hand. I think Liam, come
yeah,
up.
that's all set up. Yeah, that's set up. People can raise their hands now if you have any questions. Just put your hand up and I'll get round to you one by one. That was great. Thank you for the presentation. That was awesome.
Thank you, Liam.
Yeah, so have you got any questions? If you just want to raise your hands. Yeah, I mean, I'm really obviously interested in this area because this is an area I'm in as well. So I'll probably jump in with some questions, but I'll give some people time to have questions as well.
Sure.
So we have Joanne, who I believe is our one person who put their hand up to say they're from America. We might have more people from America now, but I'll give you you're now on air and you have the megaphone, Joanne. If you can unmute. You should have the megaphone. Are you able to unmute yourself, Joanne? It's down to your left. There should be the option to unmute. Okay, let me try one more time for you there. Or did you not have a question? Okay, we'll come back to you if you do. Just raise your hand again if you do have a question. And we have Tutor, I believe, Tutor with the question. So I'll put you on air and give you the megaphone now. So we'll come back to you, Joanne. Tutor, you should be live now.
Yes, thanks for your presentation. I actually enjoyed every bit of it. So my question is actually on the standards for the metaverse. Is there an acceptable common standard that people are open to build? Sorry, I'm back.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, so I was asking, there are standards that can enable interoperability of different metaverse platforms, because right now you have metaverse that are built by Facebook. Is a
I think you cut out.
I don't know what's happening. Okay, so
the
you
audio
have different platforms, Microsoft-enabled platforms, Meta, that's Facebook platforms, and other metaverses. But it's still not possible for one to move from one metaverse to the other metaverse, especially moving NFTs across different platforms. What do you think is this cause of this problem, and how do you think it can be solved going forward? Because, you know, a lot of people will want to be able to maintain their identity across all the different metaverses, but right now it's not possible. I look completely different here from probably I go to some other metaverse. I don't think, I hope you understand my question.
Yes, I do. And it's totally, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. Thank you, because that's a question many people have. I think we need to be realistic about expectations, and the word metaverse, the novel is a bit older, but the buzzword or the promises about interoperability, about taking your identity from one platform to the other, is quite new. I remember when Second Life came up, there was then the idea that there would be one platform that would be Second Life, or it evolved into something. Now reality is that we always will have competition probably, and there will be people who think it's better to close their ecosystem off and to make it not interoperable. There's also really technical challenges if you want to create something, if you want to take yourself, your avatar into another platform, like take my avatar here to Mozilla Hubs, for example, and so on. So it will take a lot of effort, and the question is who will benefit from that effort, and what sense does it make? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if we will have a standard in a very short time that would make that possible. But the standards I'm talking about are, for example, WebXR, that is a standard to have an interoperability layer of AR and VR in the browser, in the web browser, so you can, without having to install proprietary software, you can create experiences where people can come together. That is one level, like these sort of standards. I also don't believe that there will be one blockchain, but there will be multiple blockchains. And the question, should they be interoperable or not, is a very, very difficult one. And I'm afraid I cannot answer it in this amount of time. But as we have seen recently, it's very risky to try to build so-called bridges between blockchains. That is, the blockchain itself is quite a secure environment, or at least the main layer one blockchains, as they are called it. But when you try to pull some tricks and build tunnels or bridges or black holes between them, somebody who is cleverer than you finds a security hole and can extract a lot of value. So I wouldn't necessarily believe this is coming soon. At the moment, we will have to live with, I showed you at the beginning, there was Hicket Nunc, now there is a whole multitude of platforms. It's a bit annoying sometimes, but I think, I believe in individuality as well. So I believe there should be different platforms. So maybe not one standard that rules them all. That would be my answer.
Thank you. I got you.
Great question, yeah, and a great answer. And I think we're seeing with different platforms that exist. I think I saw with back when I was in High Fidelity, and then it was Somnium Space that created their teleporters that could teleport you from Somnium Space to High Fidelity. So they were playing around with this idea of having these, the metaverse linked, so you could jump from one to the other. But yeah, it's a lot of work to get to that stage, and it's something hopefully we'll see in the future happen. And it may even be the case of, some metaverses sort of become more popular than others. You end up with 3 main ones, and then that goes down to 2, and then that goes down to 1. And we may sort of get closer to that Ready Player One future that everyone thinks about when they think about VR, where there's, this one, but I think that's likely anytime soon.
Yeah, and the question is really, do we want it? I mean,
yeah,
I'm always afraid about this one big common thing, because there will be always people that don't feel included in that common vision, and they want a space too. So let's and that's why I showed examples of the bottom-up metaverses instead of talking about Mark Zuckerberg again. He's probably a nice guy, but I don't like. My vision is not to replicate an office, like the typical office in digital way. I don't know, but that's just me. I mean, some people.
Yeah,
might
it's
like
interesting, and I saw someone post something about Meta recently, which was suggesting that they've now in Horizon, they're now beta testing people being able to sell 3D assets that they build in their metaverse. And then I saw someone post that they're going to be charging so they get 50% commission on sales that happen within the metaverse. And then someone commented saying it's like Meta intentionally make decisions to make them more unpopular, which I thought was quite interesting.
I think that's an important point, and I just want to mention, because there's always that question of platforms are skimming off the artists, or the artists are being the platforms are the pyramids. On Nunc, the platform fee is 2.5%, and on Teia, on the community built platform, currently 0%. So 100% goes to the artist. The blockchain fees are a few cents, so they really don't fall into place at all. And this is a different approach than, like you said, 47% or 70% on some marketplaces. It's a different approach. To build something, you need some resources to build. That's totally clear, but you don't. You show a different way towards the artist, for example, instead when you take 2.5% instead of taking, let's say, 30% or 50% or 70%. That's a clear signal.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Right, I'm going to try and get back to you now, Joanne, because I see your hand went back up, and I've given you the megaphone, and you are on air now. So let's try again. There we go. You're unmuted now. Oh, you were unmuted, and now you were muted again straight afterwards. And maybe if it's not working, Joanne, maybe you can try to re-enter space if you're having issues. I can't. Yeah, I saw you unmute for a second, and then I just saw it go back on again. Okay. Now I can't see your hand raised in there. Okay, well, if anyone's got any other questions, feel free to raise your hand. Don't be shy. Especially if it's one like I still don't get what NFTs are, because I think it's one of those things that we a lot of us are still confused about, even when we're in it. So don't be shy. We do, right, Joanne, we still have your question in there, but it's not working, unfortunately. Time. That's a shame. Can't get it working.
Oh, there it goes. Did I get it?
Oh, there you go. Yes, there we go.
I think what happened, I kept hitting it, and then it would just turn me off permanently. So anyway, thank you.
Nice.
All right. So my question has to do with the minting and the number and the quantity. I do music as well as music videos and art, and sometimes I combine all of that. So my question really has to do with how many should I do? Like if I just do a piece of music, we're not a big known artist, but we have a niche. So certainly I'm not going to mint 10,000. So do I go for 50 or do I go for 100? Or is there any philosophy currently out there on how many to mint?
Great question. And difficult as well. I like that. I like difficult questions. If it's if you were a visual artist, it would be easier, because I have a feeling about after a year in that space, I have a kind of feeling about visual art. If you're in the music space, I find it a bit more difficult, because I'm thinking that maybe in the music space, the idea of just minting a song and sell it as an NFT might not be the final idea that could work, or it does not really exhaust the possibilities of that medium. Like I showed the piece by Mike Shinoda, where he combined all these combinatorial musical stems into what he calls a mixtape, where you can listen to some NFTs in any order and put them together and stuff like that. I think that shows a direction in that space. What I think is finally, or to answer the question more concretely, is you should think about who's your audience and what do you think your audience would you want to reach. And if it's a new song or something like that, and you mint 50 and they sell out, and then maybe some of the 50s are investors, they want to resell it, and then a little economy comes into place with your NFT, that should work fine. I mean, you can also say I have some experimental stuff that could be more rare, that sells for a higher price. So the way to do it, in my opinion, is experimentation, and because only experimentation gets you to the point where you can observe the specifics of your audience, of your fans, and of your special situation. And it could be you sell out in 5 minutes. It could be you don't sell out at all, ever. It depends on a lot of factors, and so there is not a good answer in terms of a concrete number, but just start experimenting. Don't be too shy. Don't wait too long or think too much. Just mint them, and what you cannot do is raise the amount. It's not possible. Like if you mint 50, you can, and some people collect it, you cannot make another 50 of the same thing. That would be very unpolite to your collectors, because the collectors have assumed a number of 50, and then they would think if it sells out, they can resell it. But what you can do is the other way around. So if 50 and after 3 months there are still 20 left, you can say, it's called burning. You destroy, let's say, 15 of the remaining editions and say, now there are only 5 left. That makes your collectors happy, because now they have more rarity, and you can, maybe the reselling part could be triggered by that. So that would be an option to do. Mint too many first, and then reduce the number that is on the market.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and again, great answer. Best way to go around it, as you said, you can't increase the amount, because people will be annoyed. It becomes less rare, exactly. But great question. We have time for one more question, so I'm just going to take the megaphone off of you, Joanne, and we have Stefan has a question, so I'm just going to give you the microphone and put you on there. Stefan, you are where are you? Just in the middle there. There you go.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me right now.
We can hear you.
Perfect. So thank you, first of all, for the presentation, sharing all your knowledge and experience. And by the way, I really like your signature picture on the wall. You've been. I'm afraid I've
Oh,
two
sorry, he
questions.
can't hear you, Stefan, at the moment. You can't hear Stefan at all, no?
No.
Perhaps just try to re-enter really quickly, and then hopefully that should fix the issue. Sorry, Stefan, if you don't mind just holding the question for 2 seconds. If you just try to re-enter.
Yeah, sure.
I should try to re-enter?
Yes, yeah. Often that fixes the audio issue. So just in your menu, if you re-enter and then just come back to the stage, you should be able to hear Stefan. Sorry, this is an issue with that sometimes happens in this specific metaverse. Yeah, occasionally people can't hear certain avatars in the world.
Well,
I don't know if I'm changing my position. Maybe.
No, it needs to be fixed by people re-entering. Unfortunately, yeah, I had an event where I often act as the middleman when this happens, because there'll be 3 people sort of in a circle and 2 people are talking, and the third person's trying to get involved, and they just think everyone's being rude, and then I'll step in and be like, "Wait, can you guys actually hear him talking?" And they're like, "No, is he talking?" I'm like, "Yes."
All right.
So can anyone else? Let's just see. Can anyone else hear Stefan right now? Show me some hearts if you can hear Stefan. Stefan, do some talking.
Hi, test. Okay. I can see some hearts. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it might be the issue. There you go. Can you hear Stefan now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. I was just thanking you for the presentation and sharing all your knowledge. And I was saying that I like your picture, your profile picture. And you've been talking a lot about examples from the Tezos network. So here's my first question. Do you think there's another blockchain technology that is also promising, or what technology is maybe the second most promising network. And my second question would be, and I'm sorry that I have a second one because the time is already a bit short. What do you think are the most significant differences between the metaverse that we are talking about today and, the concept of virtual reality that Jaron Lanier and his friends in the 90s were dreaming about? Do you think there is any significant difference? Sometimes I think it's only the case that the technology has come to an adulthood today, and there is not much of a difference, but I would be really interested in your opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for two great questions. The first one, unfortunately, I can not comment really with deep knowledge on it. I mean, I meet people all the time. Of course, it all started with the Ethereum blockchain, where the original crypto artists are still on the blockchain, or people also moving between the chains. I see Tezos artists that try out to mint on Ether. I see Ether artists that come to Tezos. There's a back and forth. As I said, I'm a person. I like diversity, and I like multiple options. So, but on the same time, for me, for example, as a developer, as a curator, as an artist, I have to focus. So I focus on this one. There's good reasons for it, which I can not talk about in depth now, but in my materials you will find them. So I'm staying focused here, but I respect other people's choices. So at the end, we all try similar things on maybe different technologies, and there are use cases that definitely speak for one or the other technology. But for art, it's been a good, really good year, interesting year, and also my hacker brain is very much triggered by positively, in a sense, by Tezos, because it's the self-amending blockchain. It's a blockchain that can basically change itself, and it does so every 3 months through a consensus mechanism. So that's really cool and really exciting that you don't have to fork. That's an issue with technologies. To the second question, is there a difference between, or what do I see in differences between the individual utopias, dystopias, or ideas about the metaverse? I think the answer is that the metaverse, or the online world, or the spaces that we are in right now. I mean, what blows my mind is that we are talking at the moment in a virtual world about this stuff, which is what people in the 70s, 80s certainly have started discovering with their modems and text-based communication, and then voice, and now we are here in VR, created by ingenious technology. So in a sense, the thing is, we are already there. In one sense, we are already there, but we also see the structural problems, and we see the structural problems of the physical world being replicated in virtual worlds. Things like harassment, things like prejudices, things like power imbalances, and all this kind of stuff. Different access to resources, of course, the ecological footprint of all this. So we are not escaping. We can have escapist fantasies of virtual worlds, and sometimes I forget all the problems, when I'm in a VR space or in a game. But at the end, we need to deal with that stuff in the virtual world as well. And this is why my main focus is on community and building communities and talking to communities. And this is where we are. We are social people. We are humans. We want to communicate. We want to build communities, and this is my vision, and I think the vision of many of those who dream about the metaverse, or who dream about online virtual worlds. So that would be my answer to the second question.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Yeah, I think I again, I can't pretend that I'm 100% clued up on all the different blockchains, but I think there's Flow. I've heard about Flow before as another sort of blockchain for a sort of open worlds, I think they claim. So I haven't used it before myself though, but yeah, I think it's interesting because we've mentioned sort of Ready Player One and other things like this today, or I did, and it's quite funny because people get excited by this image of this world, but when you look at their actual world, like in the film, and they take their headset off, it's awful. So it's kind of like it's not helping their real world by escaping to this other world. So I think having that balance, so we don't use it for escapism too much is also a good thing. But yeah, thanks for that question. That's it for the questions now. I think that's all we got time for, and Thomas is right behind me, so I'll get off the stage.
Right. I'd like to say thank you to you, Michael, for coming again to Area X, for sharing your knowledge and your thoughts. And I was already wondering if you see a new trend ahead that you might maybe talk about in 2023.
Yeah.
But definitely that was really great. I was really enjoying it. And yeah, let's see what we hear 1 year from now. And I would also say thank you very much to you, to our lovely audience tonight. If you enjoyed it, please be back in May. We got an X night every month on every second Thursday. On May 13th, the topic there will be leading in a hybrid world. And if you're up for another event tonight, please be back at 10 o'clock in the basement, where we have X Beats, our monthly party session, and we have our resident DJ here again, DJ Illuminati. If you are up for some partying, please be back at 10 here in Area X. So thanks very much, and see you. Stay safe.